What's up, guys? Jay Griff here. I just wanted to take a moment to do a quick blog on my final thoughts as far as Dark Souls before I boot up Dark Souls 2, which is actually installing on the screen over there. Uh, Dark Souls is really close to being a masterpiece. It is so close to being a masterpiece, and it's not. It isn't. It's really, really good. It's probably the best at what it sets out to do, which is create a very difficult, skill based, highly rewarding system of challenge for an action RPG that a lot of games completely miss the mark on by either making their games too easy or by making them difficult in the wrong ways. The difference between a difficult and a punishing game really all comes down to whether or not it follows the rules the whole time, or if it changes the rules on you very suddenly, and you as the player are just expected to figure that the hell out. That's not what Dark Souls does. Dark Souls follows its own rules, and it's honestly the standard for that. Presenting the player with a world with a set of rules for the combat and not deviating from that. And the rules are that you're weaker than the opponent. You'll always be. Now rise up through your skill and overcome. And one of the chief dynamics is that you should never fight when you're outnumbered, because you will get flanked and you will proceed to die. Because if you start to take damage at all in Dark Souls, you either got to get the hell out of there or you're done. Because you can't take a lot of hits, no matter what. But so I've finished Dark Souls, and I've almost finished a New Game Plus. I find myself suddenly unmotivated to finish it because New Game Plus screws with the dynamics, and I can tell that it was an afterthought. It was an afterthought for them, honestly. I don't think they obviously did not put the same care and attention into creating the New Game Plus dynamics as they did as creating the original game dynamics. And on that token, you can tell that the first probably 70% of Dark Souls was designed with a lot more care and attention than the latter 30% of Dark Souls. Dark Souls, I mean, it follows a theme, and it follows its rules. You are fighting these enemies, which are almost exclusively larger, and definitely exclusively more powerful than you, some of which are faster than you. Not all of them. And then in the later game, that dynamic kind of starts to fall apart. I think the best boss fight in Dark Souls, because it stays so true to the spirit of you struggling against a superior opponent and toying with the idea that you don't want to fight when you are outnumbered, is the boss fight against Smough and Ornstein, the Royal Guards. They are, in my opinion, one of the best boss fights in any video game I've ever played, and they beat my ass up and down the block. They completely decimated me the first time that I went in there to fight them. I died about, I think my death total was 25 on my first playthrough fighting them, and I barely squeaked out the win fighting again, killing Ornstein first and fighting Smough second, which is, anyone who's listening to this knows, is the easy way out. The hard way out is to kill Smough first and fight the Dragon Slayer second, because he's a lot harder in his superpowered form. But that boss fight was amazing because it presents you with an unfair situation, sort of, in that you're fighting against two enemies. And that's really crazy because you don't want to fight against two enemies, ever. You want to fight enemies in Dark Souls one-on-one. But this being the hardest boss fight, they are going to force you to overcome that limitation. And it's still possible. You can still do it. It's just really hard. And depending on whether or not you kill Ornstein or Smo first, and you can bring an NPC in there with you to even the odds. Solaire is summonable. So he can keep one of them busy while you kill the one you're after. But then when one of them goes down, the other one absorbs the power of his fallen comrade, becomes way stronger, way bigger, and way harder. But now there's only one of them. So it becomes it changes the dynamics of the boss fight a little bit. And now it's up to you, having already wasted some of your strength fighting the first one. Now you must take on the superpowered version of whoever's left. And they are so powerful that usually Solaire can hold his own very well against one or the other. Very well. Well, you take one of them on. But as soon as one of them is superpowered, Solaire will die within about 30 seconds. He pretty much doesn't stand a chance. And the boss fight can get really long because it's really, really hard. But through skill and patience and proper timing, you can triumph. Now, after that boss fight, you cross into the second half of the game, where some of the boss fights are traditional. In the boss fight against Nito, the Gravelord is very much in the style and the spirit of the rest of the game. So is the boss fight against Seath. But then there's two boss fights that almost don't fit, and I can tell they didn't get the care and attention that they needed, and that's the Bed of Chaos and the Four Kings. The Four Kings being, of course, a very infamous boss fight for being very hard. The reason for that is there's four kings. And I've already talked about, the problem of fighting when you're outnumbered. The trick with the Four Kings being that you ideally want to kill them as they spawn, because they don't spawn all right away. You go in there, one of them spawns, and you can fight that for a time, and then a second one will spawn, and then the third one, and the fourth. And if you are killing them fast enough, you are only ever fighting one king. And that's the real trick to that boss fight. But if you're too slow, or they beat your ass too much, you're going to be facing two kings, then three kings, and then all four kings, and heaven help you if you let that happen. You may as well just let them kill you. You will not triumph. But there's things wrong with that boss fight. They all have the same moveset, all four kings. And they all have the same character model. Why? The Four Kings of New Londo, as the story goes, were consumed by the Abyss when they gave in to its lure, when they listened to the primordial serpent that deceived them, presumably Darkstalker Koth, and they lost themselves to the lure of power, and they corrupted the shard of a Lord Soul that they had, and they became the abomination of the Four Kings. But why do they all look the same? Why do they all have the exact same character model? I think that was a shortcut that had to be taken because they needed to ship the game. They needed to get it out. So they didn't have any more time to play with the Four Kings boss fight and turn it into the masterpiece that is Smo and Ornstein versus you. That should have been Smo and Ornstein on steroids against the Four Kings, and it's not. It's a rather boring fight because they all fight the exact same way. They have the exact same character model. And, they have the exact same attack set. Some of them have different stats. Like, one of them has way higher magic damage, and one of them has way higher physical damage. But ultimately, they fight the same way. If you stand next to them, they will grab you. If you stand a little too far away from them, they will do their area of effect. And if you are charging them... Sorry about that. And if you are charging them, they're going to swing at you with their fucking arm blade. And it's going to suck. Because they all fight the same way. And that's... boring. And I think it's unfortunate that that boss fight made it into the game in the form that it's in.